Kick off summer with Memorial Day savings at Lowe's. Right now, get 5 Scott's Naturescapes 1.5 cubic foot mulch bags for just $10. Plus, get up to 40% off select major appliances and save an extra $50 on every $500 you spend on select major appliances $396 or more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 5/28. Mulch offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details.
Blog Talk Radio.
The following broadcast is brought to you by the iGolf Sports Network.
Golf Talk Live is sponsored by the iGolf Sports Network and Golf Tips Magazine. Here's Andrew to tell you more about our sponsors.
iGolf Sports is a live stream broadcast and media production company providing quality programming designed to attract the golfing enthusiast. And Golf Tips, the game's most in-depth instruction magazine, including reviews on the latest equipment, tips from top teaching professionals, all designed to help you improve from tee to green. Welcome to Golf Talk Live with your host, Ted Odorico. Join Ted each week as he speaks with some of the best in golf. This week's special guest will join us a bit later. But first up is another great discussion on Coach's Corner. So let's introduce tonight's Coach's Corner panel.
All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome once again to Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Ted Odorico, and we've got a great show for you this evening. We're going to be joined by a very good friend of mine who's been in the business for a while. He and I are going to do a special Coach's Corner discussion tonight, and a little bit later on I'm going to be joined by tonight's very special guest, Drew Koehler. He is the co-founder and head of business development at Blue Tees Golf. He'll be joining me on the second half of the show, so I'm excited to have both of them on here. Here we are, June 30th. Again, another month has flown by. We're already started in summer, and everybody's at full strength here in the golfing business. Many of the instructors are out giving lessons both on the lesson tee and playing lessons, so everybody's plenty busy as it were, and everybody's out there trying to improve their game. So we're excited for them and happy that more and more people have, especially over the last couple of years, have come and began taking up some lessons and learning to play this great game. So we're excited about that. And, of course, we're on the cusp, if you will, of the July 4th holiday weekend. I know everybody's excited to get out there and celebrate with family and friends and have a good time. So obviously be safe and get out there and have some fun. And whatever it is that you happen to do, get out there and just enjoy one another's company. All right, as I said, I'm going to be joined here by a very good friend and a special guest. He's been here on the show for many, many years, since pretty much its inception. Of course, I'm talking about Clint Wright. He's a 30-plus year member of the PGA and one of the partners at TGM Golf. TGM Golf, of course, is a big proponent of the R3 approach, which we've talked about here before on the show. And I certainly consider him to be one of the best covering the short game and favorite guest panelist here on the Coach's Corner, and he has navigated his way from the back of the bus to the front of the bus. So please welcome my very special guest to the Coach's Corner panel, Clint Wright. Good evening, Clint.
Good evening to you, Ted. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad to have it. Yeah, you've worked your way up to the front. You're almost ready to drive the bus, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I guess I'm a veteran now. I guess as we may be, but we've always had fun on the show, and I it's kind of as we try to have a little fun on the practice tee and stuff. You know, it's not all serious business. We can have a little chuckle every now and then.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you have to. I think just all kidding aside, but especially for new golfers, it can be very daunting and very stressful to learn it. Golf is, as we know, is not an easy game. We can certainly do things to make it a little bit easier on ourselves, but it certainly can be, it's full of its challenges. And I think you've got to be willing to laugh at yourself. I mean, we've all, doesn't matter what level of player you are, we've all hit some bad shots. And sometimes we let our emotions get the better of us, and instead of maybe just having a good chuckle and saying, boy, that was a really bad shot, and then move on to the next one, I think we've got to do that. And we try, as coaches, to help our players do that. Certainly, I know we do, and I think that's what we try to do here in Coach's Corner as well. Have a few laughs along the way. So we're going to talk about bunker shots, if you will, and there's a variety of different areas that we're going to discuss here. And what I'm going to do, Clint, is we're going to sort of break it down into specific areas. So that we don't jump ahead, I'm going to sort of feed into specific areas of bunkers and different types of bunker shots that one might be faced with. And the reason why I do this is really a nemesis for, I think, amateur golfers. The question many of them, pose is, why are bunker shots so difficult? And really, they're not as difficult as one might think, but often they're not always taught the right technique. So some of the major problems, I think, for hitting poor or inconsistent bunker shots are things like trying to sort of skim the ball off the sand like a chip shot, which might work, 1 out of 5 shots, but it's not consistent. It's not really the proper technique. Using the wrong club from the sand is another one that quite often happens. Not following through to a complete swing. We're going to talk about some of these in a little bit more detail as we go along. And bounce and the sole width of the club are maybe not fat enough. Again, that goes to not using the right club. And obviously tension is a big killer in all shots, not just the bunker shot. So those are some of the things we're going to talk about, and of course more. And then we're going to talk about different types of bunker shots. So for the purpose of the beginning of this discussion, I want to focus on just sort of your run-of-the-mill greenside bunker, nothing real fancy, but just sort of a generic bunker shot. And then we'll get into some more specifics as we go along. So I talked about the club. So as a beginner, really, what should we be using for that? Maybe give us an example, and then we're going to get into things like the stance, the setup, and that sort of thing. But for the club,
no problem.
You and I know the answer to this. Give us an idea of what they should be looking to do, what club they should be selecting for just a standard bunker shot.
Okay.
And why?
Well, right, I understand. I love this because, to me, bunker shots are the easiest shot in the game, period. Because it's the only shot you don't have to hit the ball. You just got to get somewhere around it. Okay, but to come back to the question, the player should analyze the type of bunkers they have at their home course. Okay, there's all different type of textures and consistencies and softness versus hardness. So we can talk briefly, but if you look for just the run-of-the-mill generic sand wedge that can be used maybe versatily, not just in the bunker, but kind of a combination wedge, I think they should be looking at somewhere around a 56-degree club that's got, I like the idea of 10-degree bounce, because I'm going to, as we talk about setup, we're going to let the club roll open a little bit, which is going to increase that bounce angle. So if I've got a 10 and I open the club up a little bit to add some loft, or we'll get it to glide through, then I'm probably going to end up with a 12 to maybe 14-degree bounce on that club, which is beneficial for bunker plays and soft sand, but it's not so beneficial out in the fairway where we don't want so much bounce, so we play it straight up and we're back to the 10-degree. So your general run-of-the-mill wedge is 55, 56, 10-degree bounce, standard length. The sole width is going to be fairly close to the same regardless of what brand you have. But the little wider that sole is in that club, the better off you are. So I wouldn't go in and buy a real narrow, sole club that's got 10 degrees. But there's, such a variety of wedges today. Every company out there has got multiple wedges, different lofts, different, bounce angles, different sole widths. So the wider the sole, the better. Around 55, 56 degrees with 10-degree bounce is a really good place to start.
Yeah, and I think this all goes to, with any of your equipment, really, this is when it becomes important for club fitting. This is where your pro, especially if they, deal in club fitting. Some don't, obviously, but most of them can help you with that. That's where it becomes important, because selecting the right club. And you're right, the wider the sole is going to be more conducive to helping you get out of the sand. So when you're looking for that, as you pointed out, there's a lot of brands out there. Some are a little thinner, some are a little, wider, if you will.
Right.
And I think particularly for the beginning golfers, I think a wider soled sand wedge is going to be more beneficial to them, because it's going to make it a little bit easier to help them get the ball out of the sand. trap and onto the green, so they can certainly make a good attempt at a putt. And you're right, 56, maybe even a 58, a 58-degree sand wedge as well. Again, depending on the player. Now, some more skilled players might even use their lob wedge, which again is a little bit different. I don't certainly recommend that for an amateur or a less skilled player or a beginning player, but some of them do that. They again, depending on your skill level and so forth. So I think that's a good starting point. Let's get a good sand wedge with a good bounce on it, and let's start with the right equipment. It starts with the right equipment. Then you come to things like the stance and the setup. So let's talk about the feet and the club face. So you could start, since you already sort of gotten down that route, why don't you start with the club face first, what they should be doing with the club face in a condition. And again, we're talking greenside bunkers here, not really a high lift. We'll talk about that, and then talk about the feet, what they should be doing with their feet.
Okay, it's kind of real simple. One of the things that we see, we want to take the lines on the face of the club, the grooves, or how we want to look at this. So if I'm setting the club down square, those grooves are going to run directly away from me, straight ahead, back and forth. If I'm in the bunker, I want to lay the club open, not lay it back. We get some confusion out of some players when you say you want to open a club, and what they do, they'll move their hands back towards their right leg, and that the shaft is leaning forward, but they think that's opening it up. Well, that's not correct. So what we want to do is take the lines of the club and make sure those face grooves point towards my left foot. So they're going to go to pointing up the middle, and I want to rotate the club to where the grooves are running from my left foot to my back, towards the right. All right, if you can envision that. So now, straight in the middle, grooves are going to be aimed towards my left foot now. So it's open. It's been spun open, not laid open. Okay? Then as far as the feet is concerned, we want to be able to get the club moving across the ball a little bit. So I want my left foot back, or what we'd call an open stance, and the ball relatively on center to slightly forward of center, because the setup is I want to guarantee that the club is going to enter the sand behind the ball. Okay? So in order to do that, the bottom of my swing arc is slightly in front of the middle. Okay? So therefore, I want the ball slightly in front of that bottom, because I'm swinging at the bottom portion of my arc. I'm not swinging at the ball here. I'm going to try to use the ballistics of the sand to move the ball out of the bunker. When I was a kid, I was taught that if you move the sand that's behind your ball out of the bunker, the ball's going to be in front of it. So you want to be aggressive. We'll talk about this a little bit later. You want to be aggressive, take that sand out of the bunker, and the ball has to be in front of it. It's like the ballistics of a gun shell. You know, it's got something to push it out. So we want to use the ballistics of the sand to move the ball out. So that's why we got it slightly forward to the bottom of the arc. My left foot is back and open. The club face, because I want it to glide more through the sand, is laid with the grooves aimed towards my left foot. And what we want to make sure we do is we want to move the sand out of the bunker. And if you do that, you're going to make a pretty aggressive full swing. I see a lot of people that end up with that little bit of sand behind the ball still on their club face because they stop right there at impact. We want to throw that sand out of the bunker, okay? Throw it out of the bunker. That means you're going to go ahead and swing at it, you know. I was also taught, and I believe, that it's better to be in the bunker on the other side of the green than it is in the one you're in. Get it out of there. That's what we teach to begin with, is I teach a person, just get it out of this bunker. If you can get where you can get it out of the bunker every time, then we'll worry about where it's going. But first order of business is you got to get it out of the bunker. You know, and most people are not. Yeah, most people are a little timid.
Well, and see here, just to sort of quickly recap, the idea here is with the bunker shot, the objective here is, as you said, to hit the sand, not the ball first. So you want to, the club really essentially glides through the sand. And the reason you take the precautions in the setup that you do, and we'll talk about that as well a little bit, is you want to certainly dig a certain amount into the sand because you need to get essentially underneath the ball and allow the sand to, as you say, sort of propel the ball forward.
It will.
But you have to open the club face a little bit and use the bounce. And one of the things, as you pointed out, and I think it's a great way to sort of visualize that, is to have those grooves when the club face is open, that they're pointing towards your left foot. The other way to do that as well is to look at it is if the face, if it's square and it's pointing directly at the target, what it's now going to do with it open is it's going to point slightly right of your target. So that's another way to visualize it as well. So that club face is going to look that. The thing, too, just one other thing pointed out, I don't think you mentioned it, but I know you thought of this, is that when you're opening up the club face, as you said, don't lean the shaft back and open it that way. You want to actually turn it in your hand, and then you re-grip the club. That's very important because we see a lot of players, too, where they'll say, okay, well, I know I'm not leaning the shaft back. I just got to open it, and they'll just turn their hands to the right, think, okay, that's right. But the problem with that is then when they go to follow through, their hands start to close again, and they're back to square. So just want to make sure that, and then again, as you said, an open stance, you want to do that, and it varies depending on the type of shot. If the pin is cut very close to where you are, just on the other side of the bunker on the green, then you might want to have your stance slightly more open than normal. If it's a little further, if the pin's a little further, maybe the middle or even the other side of the green, you may even want to have your stance very slightly, maybe just between 2 yards, pointing left of the target, because you want to be able to get that distance. So there's a lot of factors involved in the stance and setup, and you definitely have to get in there and practice it. But that's certainly a good start for our beginners, and beginning with a good club and beginning with a good setup. The other one, too, is, you touched on this, was the ball position. Should be, again, just forward of center of where the bottom of your arc is, certainly up towards the front foot. Doesn't have to be right off the front foot, but it's closer to the front foot to be able to make sure that you're going to take that sand. Now, as far as the hands, this is something, too, that we see a lot of people, and I'm not talking about the grip. I'm talking about how the hand should be positioned. I personally think that I like to grip down a little bit on the club with my hands, because one of the other things that you're going to do typically in a bunker is you're going to, once you've taken your setup and you've got your feet opened a little bit, you're going to kind of shimmy your feet, as I call it, a little bit. You're going to dig yourself to give it a solid base into the sand. So that means you're now going to lower yourself. Your feet are going to be a little further down than typical. So you want to compensate. So I believe, and again, it depends on how much you go down, I like to at least 1 inch to 2 inches I like to grip down for two reasons. One, that gets me on a proper balance again with my height distance from where the club is going to hit and where my feet are in the ground. But also it helps me control the club a little bit more when I'm not holding it up near the top. I've got it gripped down a little bit. It gives me a little bit more club control. What are your thoughts here?
Well, I can't disagree with you, but keep one thing in mind is that what I try to do with a beginner is I want to get them in a position that's going to guarantee that the club is going to enter the sand behind the ball. That's the first thing. Because if they skin it and it slides out, I want them hitting that sand, and I want them to get the feel of the weight of the sand on their club and move it out of there, right? So by shimmying in or digging down, if we don't grip down too far, that's just another surety that I'm going to hit behind it because I have lowered. So you say 1 to 2 inches, depends on the lie. If they're going to choke down, I always try to get a person to stay in their chipping and bunker play mid-grip. Okay? We don't need to be down on the very end of the grip, but we don't need to be on the top end because we don't need that much leverage. So if they put their hand kind of mid-grip where there's about 1 inch top of the club, depending on their hand size, about 1 inch top of the club, 1 inch or so at the bottom of their right hand or left hand, depending on if they're left-handed, their bottom hand, is about the equal distance from the bottom from the top. So it's going to get their hands about mid-grip. And that just gives them a real consistent way of getting set up, which I agree they don't need the full length. But I try to get a person to understand, I'm going to get you in every position I can, that when you swing that club back and through, it's going to make impact with the sand first.
Right.
And your responsibility is to move that sand out of that bunker.
That's right. That's all your responsibility. The other thing, too, Clint, that I like to do, and you may agree or may have a different view on this, when you watch a lot of the tour players, you'll notice that they'll lower their center of gravity a little bit. What I mean by that is even though they've shimmied down the sand a little ways, they also lower their body. Now, they're still in their same posture, but they'll actually lower. They'll maybe have a little bit more knee flex. The reason why they're doing this is really a number of reasons, but one of the main reasons they do this is typically in a normal setup for a lot of players is in your backswing, it tends to be a little bit more upright, which you don't really want in a bunker shot because that's going to force you to come down too hard into the sand, and a lot of times the club gets stuck, especially if you don't give it enough energy to follow through. So what I like to do with my students, and I watch a lot of pros do this as well, is to lower that center of gravity, because now what that does, it forces me to swing on a slightly flatter plane than normal, which again assures that I'm not going to dig too deep in the sand. I certainly need to get into the sand, but not too deep. And even though the club is going to handle most of that, that still helps. I'd like to get your thoughts on that. Is that something that you often do as well? And go ahead.
Well, it really, kind of depends on the individual. Is if they're already got a little bit of a flat swing, if you're looking at their full swing, we need to be careful with that, because if we get too deep in the knee bend or the waist tilt, it's really flat, So it's kind of one of those things. I don't disagree with you, but I think it's more of an individual student to teacher that says, okay, you got a little more of an upright swing, so in these bunkers you need to sit down a little bit. I agree. Mm-hmm. If I've already got a student who's got a little bit of a Hogan-esque kind of behind me swing, then I'm probably going to let them set up normal with it. Okay, because we don't want to get it too shallow. So I think that those are those are not quite generic in nature as far as how we position ourselves in a normal position. Okay, so I think you just have to look at that one-on-one.
Yep, good point. So it really it's like any golf shot, whether you're in the sand or you're not. It all boils down to, number one, you want to make sure you're selecting the right club. Number two, you want to make sure that you're setting up properly. You're getting in the proper posture, the proper position, your stance is correct. In other words, your overall setup is correct. Because the difference here, too, that people don't realize, especially if they've never played before or haven't played very much, is unlike other shots, you can't ground or sole your club in a bunker. Certainly, if you're playing with your buddies and they're not really holding it to account, that's fine. But if in tournament play you can't do that, it's going to cost you a penalty. So, you can't test the sand, you can't sort of rake the sand over to see how fluffy it is. So, really, you want to make sure that to give yourself the best opportunity, you want to make sure that you do the things that we've just talked about to give yourself the highest percentage of success. Is the way I look at it. Of executing the shot that you want to do. So, if you do these steps in such a way as we're discussing here tonight, that's going to give you the higher percentage of success of getting that ball out of the bunker. And again, depending on your level of play, is how aggressive you want to be. Obviously, for our real beginners, just getting it out of the bunker, even if it doesn't make it all the way onto the green, if it just gets caught up in the fringe, that's still a good shot. Let's get it out of the bunker.
Success.
That's success, exactly. So you need to define what's success for you, and that's important because, again, and then obviously as the skill level of the player becomes, they can be a little bit more aggressive and make different adjustments to give them an opportunity to get the ball a little closer to their ultimate target, which is the hole. So again, that's going to vary from player to player. The other thing too is, and you touched on this earlier, and I think this is important because we see this a lot, and we're going to talk about. Again, some different types of bunker shots that you're going to be faced with. But for a generic bunker shot that we're discussing here, the follow-through, I think, is a killer for a lot of people. Maybe you can talk about what we're referring to here and why, if they're not following through, and again, this sort of generic bunker shot, what can potentially happen and why it happens.
Well, I'm going to back up just a little bit now. As a former rules official, I hesitate to say this, but I can test the soil legally.
Right.
Okay? I'm going to dig my feet in, and I'm feeling that sand with my feet. I can tell you, okay? So just pay attention to the when you dig in, pay attention. It's not illegal to pay attention. Okay.
Right.
It's illegal to take something and probe it, but I'm probing with my feet.
Right.
There you can pay attention. That's all you have to do. Okay. Now, as far as the question about the follow through, is that to me it comes back to my primary objective. I have to move the sand out of the bunker. So that means I have to complete my swing, because if I stop the club and don't follow through, that sand's not coming out of the bunker. So I haven't achieved it. So I try to get a person to feel like that there are basically three positions in a bunker shot. There's the setup, position 1, get myself ready. Position 2 is a complete backswing, and a position 3 is I want the club in my hands to finish above my shoulders. Okay? That's just take it back shoulder high, swing it through shoulder high. Now, that's the beginning of a bunker. You're very rarely ever going to hit a greenside bunker shot that you have to take the club further back than shoulder high. So that's the limit. But we have to hit those limits on both sides of the ball. So in order to get the sand to move out. So I want to take it shoulder high, finish shoulder high. And, then it's just a matter of the bottom supporting that motion. So there's a little hip roll. You got to swing through it. You can't swing to it. Okay? And there's no other place in golf that is even more important to understand that little mantra. You got to swing through it, not to it. And because if you swing to it, you're going to get another chance in that same bunker. It's not coming out of there. All right, so if I swing through it, it's coming out. And, like I tell people, I said, I want you to watch the golf tournaments and show me how many times a tour player blades one out of a greenside bunker. Never. Right. But they swing aggressive because they know they're going to hit the sand. We're getting you all set up to give you that opportunity. If I get you set up properly on a greenside bunker, you're going to have to do something really funny not to hit the sand behind that ball. So then you just got to go ahead and, take the chances, get it out of there. So swing through it, not to it, is just to me, is a very simple thing to think about. Or use the shoulder high idea, whichever one clicks with you. But you have to have that shoulder high going back, shoulder high coming through. That'll help you set up that idea of swing through it, not to it.
Yeah, and even if in this particular case, as I mentioned, even if the hole is cut closer to where you are and the bunker, even if the ball ends up going past, it doesn't matter. You're out of the sand. You're now on the green, or certainly in proximity of it, depending on where you are positioned. But that's going to put you in a good position. Now you can pull the putter out of the bag, and you've got a much greater chance of right. You use the flat
you hit
stick,
the next shot with your putter, not that's right. That's right.
Right. Now, somebody, often we get this question, and again, I'd like to get your feedback on this. People ask, okay, well, what about wrist hinge and so forth? So, okay, I'm taking my backswing. Am I cocking my wrist a little bit differently than I would for a typical golf shot because I need to get that club up quickly in the backswing, especially, obviously if you're in a sort of a flat bunker shot where you don't really have high lips on front or back, that's not going to be maybe applicable. But if I've got, let's say if I'm near the back of the bunker and I've got a high lip behind me, obviously I'm going to need to pick the club up a little quicker so I don't hit the sand going up. But what about in a typical flat bunker shot? Is there any little bit more wrist hinge involved or not? Is it just basically let's turn it back, get it up to the shoulder height, and then turn it through? What are your thoughts here?
Well, again, here we're talking about, maybe not quite the accomplished player. I don't want to make this bunker shot complicated for them. So what I try to get them to do is think about presetting whatever hinge you're going to have. Let's preset it just a little bit. A little bit more of maybe a little bit more of a shaft lean than they normally would have in their regular shot. A little shaft lean, club face going to be open. And what I try to get them to feel like is I want them to swing the club to where the club stays behind the ball all the time. So if they do that, the club's going to get a little bit more vertical. Okay? So I don't really get into trying to teach somebody to get the club more vertical. I just want them to feel like that the club face stays behind the ball. It doesn't drop inside it, and it doesn't go outside it. It just stays right behind the ball. And that gives them a little bit more of a vertical swing plane than they might normally have. And it's not by trying to hinge their hands or get funky ideas with that. It's a matter of what I want to do with the club face. Well, I want it open. I want my hands hinged a little bit more forward, and I want to keep the club face behind the ball. And that gets them what you're talking about. It achieves the objective.
Right, exactly. And again, with the proper setup and getting yourself in the position, really what happens at this point is you're allowing the club really to do its job. If you do all of the steps that we're talking about in the correct fashion, the club is going to do the work, just like in any other shot, and even more so in a bunker shot. And I think this is, again, where people trying to get the ball airborne. They're trying to flip it open to get that ball airborne. And really, you need to just let the club do its job. The sand wedge, which of course has been around for a long time, is designed specifically for that purpose, to help get the ball out of the sand. So use the bounce and use the club face open and so forth to help you be able to do that. Now we're going to change it up a little bit because, again, we're not always going to get a nice perfect lie in a bunker shot. We're going to get faced with what we call sometimes a fried egg, where the ball's sitting down a little bit. It's not plugged. We'll talk about that as well. But it looks like a fried egg. What do we do differently in a case like that? Again, greenside bunker, but now we've got a fried egg lie where the ball's sitting a little bit down. We can still see it, but it's sitting a little bit. It's created a little fried egg pattern, if you will, in the sand.
Yeah,
do we do anything different here?
A little bit. It's more of a crater around the ball. We got a little crater, and that probably is the most difficult bunker shot, regardless of whether it's greenside or not, that you'll encounter. And what I try to do there, a lot of it, because if the ball is going to crater like that, it's most likely in some fairly loose, properly maintained bunker sand. So it's not going to be in a hard bunker, okay? So what we know there is that the ball is not going to have any backspin on it coming out of that bunker. So we need to give some thought to, in my opinion, of hitting a little bit of a chunk and run. We want to chunk the ball out, just get it out of the bunker. If it just barely clears the lip, it's fine, because it's going to turn over and run. It's going to go much further than just your run-of-the-mill flat ground bunker shot. So a lot of times there, I will use a different type of wedge, and I don't want to lay the club face open so much, because what's going to happen if I do, it's going to hit that sand behind the ball, it's going to bounce, and by the time the club gets to where the ball's sitting, it most likely has come through the sand, and I'm going to belly that ball.
Right.
Okay? So I need the club to dig a little bit more than what I would in my normal bunker shot. So instead of letting the grooves on the club lean towards my left foot, I'm going to keep it almost standard where it's running mostly right up the middle. So I'm going to take some of the bounce off of the club to where it'll dig a little more and go ahead and be aggressive. Again, here, that's where that sand will propel the ball out, but it's going to propel it out with no spin. So you can hit a little bit of a chunk and run, let it roll more, but here's where we're going to take some of the bounce off the club, not put bounce on it. And go ahead and make your normal bunker shot. Don't make it fancy. Let's use the club and manage it to do what we want it to do. And in this particular case, we want it to dig just a little bit more than normal, but we still have to stay aggressive.
Right, and we see a lot of times in the next scenario where the ball is actually plugged in the sand. Quite often we'll see this. Typically you'll see this when it's closer, either right near the lip or in the upslope or even downslope of the bunker. You'll see where it actually gets buried somewhat in the sand. Again, this is going to require a slightly different technique. Let's set up for that for success in a plug lie, if you will.
Okay. To me, of the two, a purely plugged ball, unless it's just in a horrible location in the bunker, we know exactly what that ball is going to do. Okay? It's going to, if you hit behind it, that sand is packed so tight around that ball, it's going to pop it out of the bunker. It's coming out of there. So if you think the tighter the sand is around that ball, and if you get anywhere close to that sand, the ballistics of that sand tapped around that ball tightly is going to pop it out. It's coming out of there. If you just go ahead, let the club dig a little bit, take the bounce off, let the club dig in behind it, and it'll pop out. And if you try this, you can get in the bunker and step on one and try it. You'll notice that when that ball gets airborne, it'll look like a knuckleball. It's not going to have any spin on it. It's just going to be kind of floating. But when it hits the ground, watch it. It's going to hit the ground running. Okay? So in those particular – okay? I mean, it's just what it's going to do. So to me, that is the most predictable bunker shot you can get for the average player, because if you toe the club down, get those lines running at you, and if you'll just hit behind it with some speed, it's going to pop out of there, and it'll run up on the green. It may run over the green, but it's going to pop out of there. So using the idea of the ballistics of the sand to move the ball, that is where you get the ultimate ballistic effect, is when the sand's packed so tight around the ball that you can hit within 6 inches of it, it'll probably come out. Just the nature of the ballistics of the sand. So just plan on it running a long way. Take the toe of the club, turn it in a little bit where the lines are running directly away from you again, and let that club dig, and let the ballistics of the nature of the sand in the ball help you get it out of there.
Yeah, and you're not, in a case like this, you're not following, especially if it's close to the lip, you're not following through the same as you would before. If you notice, a lot of players will kind of hold off a little bit because in many cases you can't follow through just because of where it's located. But again, as you said, the pure force, if you will, of hitting that sand, even if it's a couple of inches behind or more, is going to, again, propel that golf ball out. And again, with no spin, it's going to get some traction and move. But that's okay. You're still out of the sand.
That's right.
There's some other scenarios that we might be faced with. Again, sometimes, as you mentioned, the sand might be nice and fluffy and well maintained, but there's a lot of courses out there that don't have as good of conditions in the bunker. Sometimes the firm is naturally a little bit harder, or maybe they're just not, keeping it as maintained. And you get some hard packed sand. So what do we do in a case like that?
Well, then the bounce of the club, excuse me, the bounce of the club becomes really important here, and how you position the club face at address becomes real important, because if you get a hard packed sand, it's obvious that the bounce of that club, or the bounce, is going to bounce more. It's going to hit it and come up, right? So it's not going to glide through as much. So we have to be careful of the bounce. And that's why I like the idea of a 10-degree bounce wedge, because you can take a little bit of that off. But it really just comes down to the fact that if you get a hard-packed bunker, you're probably going to have to get a little bit better skill level, because you're going to need to hit the sand a little bit more precise in that type of bunkers than you do maybe with a little bit more fluffy sand. Because we've got to, if we hit a couple of inches behind a ball in the bunker with a firm sand, it's going to bounce and already be elevated by the time it gets to the ball. So we want to make sure that we set up with the ball maybe a little bit more towards the center of our stance, and we want to try to catch the sand a lot closer to the ball, to where it's still descending when it gets to the ball, versus already made its bottom and bounced up out of that sand too soon. So we're going to move the ball back in our stance a little bit. We're going to not use quite as much of a laying of the club open as we normally would, but still making the same basic type of stroke from, start to finish. So it's all about position of the club and position of the ball that'll make that more effective.
And I think this is really, Clint, what a lot of amateur golfers, particularly and obviously our beginning golfers, struggle with is they see the bunker, the ball gets in there, and they think every bunker shot's exactly the same. And it's really about understanding how to approach it. So just like if you have a ball, excuse me, pardon me, if it's, smack dab in the middle of the fairway or it's in the rough, there's going to be two entirely different reactions to how the golf ball is going to react. Obviously, in a tight fairway, if you hit a clean shot, you're going to get a little more spin. If it's a fluffier ball in deeper, thicker grass, you're not going to get the same spin. So, again, knowing how to set up properly and how to, prepare yourself, if you will, before you actually hit the shot, is going to make a world of difference. And the same thing applies in the bunker. And again, I think the same applies in this particular scenario. Again, it comes down to technique. You can talk maybe a little bit about this. Sometimes, we get a little bit of rain, maybe in the early morning or what have you, and you get out there, and now you've got some wet sand. How does that factor in?
Well, I think that obviously it just firms it up. I mean, and the sand's a little heavier because it's water. It's got water in it, so you have to maybe swing a little bit more aggressively, swing a little bit harder. But unless the golf course has got inside-outside irrigation on their greens, it's pretty much a guarantee when they start having to put water on the greens is early in the morning, those bunkers are going to be a little wet because that irrigation system's going 360. So some golf courses, what we call it in and out, that they're just watering the greens, they don't go to the outside. But yeah, I mean, those things you have to adjust to. And here's the thing, and this may be a little bit off of it right now, is that what concerns me the most is we put bunkers on the golf course and don't build something that our members and customers can have at the practice area to learn how to play out of them.
Right.
We put bunkers out there, but no practice bunker. So bunker play, you have to practice these things and try to find the different scenarios to practice. The best players in the world do. They try the bunkers at each golf course are different, so they spend a lot of time in those bunkers trying to figure out how the sand is going to react, and they try different scenarios. But if the sand, back to the original question, if the bunkers are wet, to me that plays very similar to a firm sand bunker. It's just heavier. It's going to be firmer. The club is going to the club is going to bounce a little sooner. So you just have to move the ball back to the center and not let the bounce be quite as much of a factor.
Yep, great points. And again, it all boils down to preparation, technique, and not being afraid, to be somewhat aggressive. Again, we often see amateurs stepping into the bunker, and it's almost like they get a little skittish. They do a pretty decent backswing, and they've set up okay, but then all of a sudden they just stop into the sand, and the ball doesn't go anywhere. The sand doesn't go anywhere. The ball doesn't go anywhere. So you can't be afraid. I think what happens with a lot of them, I think, again, it becomes a psychological thing, is they're worried about blading it, especially if there's a lot of trouble in around the green. Maybe there's water over there or other bunkers, and they're worried about hitting it in the belly, as you say, or thinning it over. So they're afraid to give it a good swing. But again, you're hitting the sand, not the ball.
Correct.
And if you do that correctly, the ball's not going to fly over the green. If you've opened up the club faces we talked about and that, it's not going to go flying over the green. If you're not setting up properly and not using the proper techniques, then you're going to run in the issue where you're going to make a mistake like that. So again, bunker shots, as you point out at the very beginning, you're exactly right. It's probably one of the easiest shots because now you're hitting the sand first and not the ball. And you can be a little bit more aggressive with that shot. And again, with a little bit of practice and understanding the proper techniques, you become a very proficient bunker player where any situation that you're faced with, whether it's a perfect lie or it's plug lie or a fried egg or what have you, by practicing those different variety of shots, you're going to be very proficient coming out of the bunker. And the next time you get out in your golf course and the ball goes in the bunker, you're not going to be fearful of it, and you're going to be able to step into that bunker with confidence. I want to touch on one more.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, well, what I'm saying, the typically the thing that happens, the person that has fear of the bunkers, that's just where their ball ends up. It's just karma. Oh Lord, but no, you're absolutely right. I think that, and particularly the people who are listening, if you don't have a practice bunker, encourage your local club to build one somewhere. It doesn't have to be around the putting green, but just where you can go, gain a little confidence. But again, I didn't say this. When you go out to play and there's nobody around, drop a couple of balls in the bunker and practice a little bit. I don't think anybody's going to be too upset about that. But I didn't tell you to do that.
I've done. Yeah. I didn't hear that. It's only on a recorded broadcast, but don't worry about it.
Oh, sure. That's okay. Don't blame me.
But no, You're exactly right. And it's like anything we've talked about over the years. You've got to practice. Now, you're going to have a different scenario here. There's other bunkers that you might be faced with. You may not be facing with a greenside bunker, but maybe a fairway bunker, and that's a whole different kettle of fish because now, distance becomes a premium. And here, you're really doing things a little bit differently. We don't have to get into all the different scenarios, but generally, what are you trying to do in a fairway bunker that's typically, or even some cases you might see what might be a wasteland, if you will, or looks like a bunker, but it's not, especially in the Carolinas. We see a lot of that in the golf courses where maybe one side of the hole looks like a giant bunker, but it's not really. It's just a sort of a waste area, if you will. How do we play out of something like that?
Well, yeah, you're right. Here in the Carolinas, both South Carolina and North Carolina, that the sand hills are exactly what they are. Well, first of all, we're talking about just like a full swing type play. Then I'm going to play that very similar, if not exactly the way I would play a normal shot out of the fairway. The one thing I see people do, which I think is interesting, is that they'll walk into that fairway bunker and they'll dig in.
Yeah.
All right. Now, what did we just discuss about digging in, what that was going to help me to do? And that was going to help me hit behind the ball. Now, so if they want to dig in, your point of choking down on the club becomes extremely important on fairway bunkers because I don't want to hit behind the ball. I want to hit the ball first now. Okay, so if I want to dig in and feel more comfortable with that, I certainly want to choke down on the club to adjust for the amount of digging in I've done. I think if you watch on television, you'll see them dig in some, but very little. They'll try to particularly get their trailing foot a little bit into the sand. Not necessarily their forward foot, but that trailing foot that's going to help them be stable on the backswing is in a little bit. But you'll also probably notice that they've choked down on the club a little bit. So again, here it's the full swing mentality. Grab the club you need. I like to see a person if they've got a 7-iron shot, maybe take the 6-iron and not try to hit it so hard. You're not going to hit your best 7-iron out of there. So try to take a little extra club, maybe not swing quite so full or hard, maybe 3/4 cut shots. But most importantly, don't overdo the digging in because that's going to guarantee you're going to hit it fat. Guaranteed. And so dig in that trail foot a little bit for stability, and if you do, just choke down a little bit, play the 3/4 shot, that you have, and go about your business normally. I don't think there's anything that fancy about those shots. Now, if you get into the fact of where you've got this 50-yarder, that cross bunker on a par 5, then we got a little different story.
Yeah, and again, with the fairway bunkers, it's opposite to your typical bunker shot. Is now you're wanting to pick the ball clean, essentially out of that bunker. You're not wanting to dig into the sand. So you're exactly right. And if you do, as you said, if you dig in a little bit, certainly is not a problem. You certainly don't want to dig in as much as you would a greenside bunker. But it's okay just to if you feel that it's not stable and you need to dig in a little bit. I think certainly, as you suggest, the pros might dig their trail foot in a little bit more. Certainly not their front foot because they want to be able to get onto that side and not feel like they're stuck in the sand. But then you have to adjust accordingly with your grip and gripping down a little bit. And here, the other thing too is if you watch really closely on these longer fairway bunker shots, is you'll notice that the players, even though they might take a 3/4 or slightly more backswing, their legs are much more, they're not as much movement in their lower body as typically you would out of a fairway shot. And that's because, again, they're trying to pick that. They're trying not to move because the sand moves. So, in other words, if they're going into a full backswing or a 3/4 swing, they're certainly not locking their legs. They're certainly not being rigid. But you'll notice that they don't turn quite as, or certainly move because they don't want to slide in the bunker. They don't want to get a situation where suddenly now they've shifted too much weight on their lower body and dig even further in the sand, and that, again, throws them off kilter a little bit. So I always say, if you watch, one of the best things to do, if you ever get a chance, and I'm talking, of course, to the listeners out there, we both know this, if you have never been to whether it be a PGA or an LPGA event or even some of your other local professional events that may be going on in your area, I strongly suggest, that you go and watch these guys not just play on the golf course, but particularly watch them warm up. Because most of the warm-ups, you're going to see them certainly hit some balls off the range, but you'll see them putting on the greens, and you'll see them working out of the bunkers and things like that. That is a great opportunity to really watch the technique and how these guys and gals do it. And that's going to help you. Certainly working with your coach or your teaching professional is certainly a premium. I strongly suggest if you're not working with somebody that you reach out to your local PGA or LPGA professional and connect with them. But go to a professional event and go to the practice area and watch these folks work and get prepared for their rounds, because you will see exactly, they'll go through their whole pre-shot routine, they'll go through everything it needs to do, and they'll execute those shots, and you can pick up a lot of tips from doing that. And then that makes a great discussion for when you're back on the lesson tee with your swing instructor. So I strongly suggest doing that. And I think, Clint, really, as we said in the beginning, I think the bunker shots can be very, very easily. Golf certainly can be difficult. We both concur that. But I think of all the golf shots, I think you're exactly right. I think the bunker shots are among the easiest, certainly the easiest shot in all of golf. Any final thoughts?
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think that if what I encourage people to do as well is that there's several different types of bunker wedges and stuff. I try to make the same type of bunker swing with regardless of which and how far I need the ball to go. And I try to dictate trajectory and distance with the club I choose.
Right.
If I've got to go up and short, I lay the club open more. If I got to go longer, and lower, I maybe go to my 54 versus my 58, because I'm going to get a little lower trajectory and the ball's not going to spin as much as it runs out. So what I encourage people to do to begin with is they learn to play bunker shots, have their bunker swing, and then try to dictate how the ball reacts with that swing based on how you position the ball and how you position the club. And therefore you begin to develop that real aggressive, complete full swing that you're going to use every time, that you can gain some confidence in, and then you alter your shots. Just to me, it's no different than having a full swing, and if you're 110 yards away, you use a wedge. If you're 160, you use a 6-iron. You're just changing things to get a different reaction. Okay, same thing.
Yeah, and one last thing I'm going to add for the listeners out there. You may find yourself in this scenario, and there's certainly nothing wrong. I've had to do this occasionally when I've played. You may find it, and it's regardless of whether you're at a fairway bunker or at a greenside bunker. If you find yourself in a position where you just don't feel confident, for instance, if you find yourself near a severe upslope, whether the ball is plugged in or whether it's regular standard bunker shot, but you don't feel that you're going to be able to get over that lip, you just don't feel confident, look for other options. Look to see if I play it out to the right or to the left, as long as you're not going to put yourself in other trouble. Don't be afraid, especially in a fairway bunker. I've seen lots of times you get some of these fairway bunkers, the architect gets a little aggressive when they're designing it, and they put this great big lip, and the guy has, a 6 or 5 or 6 iron shot to the green, but he's got this big lip in front. He knows he's not going to be able to clear that lip because he just isn't an accomplished player. Play it out. Play it out to the side a little bit. Play it to the left or right, depending on the situation you're in, and just get it back in play. Advance the ball whenever possible, but if you just can't do it, if you're going to end up in – because the other thing, Clint, that we find is that if they're not confident in hitting that shot, more often than not, they're going to end up leaving it in the bunker anyway. So I would rather, again, the optimal option here is to get it out of the bunker any way possible. And I think sometimes you have to assess the situation and do what you feel you're most comfortable and give you the greatest chance of success of ultimately getting it out of the bunker is your number one goal. Thoughts on that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, it's perfect. I mean, the primary objective here, is get the ball out of the bunker you're in. What's going to give me the guarantee? That's just like every shot that you hit. I just want to give myself the best chance I can to be successful with it. That's ball position, club selection, thought process. Give myself the best chance. And so in this particular case, we need to add one thing to that, is our success at the early going is out of the bunker. So primary objective, get the ball out of the bunker, guaranteed. Just like you said, if I got a big lip in front of me and I'm 160 yards away, I'm not going to get my 6-iron up over that lip. So I just need to play a club, get it over the lip, get it out of the bunker, and then maybe trust my next shot to get me a little closer to the hole. But yeah, this has been. I mean, it's been a great show. I really enjoyed talking about bunker play because there's just so many people that don't get into it. They just think that, well, sooner or later I'm gonna get it and want to be okay, but I'm gonna do my best just to avoid being in them. And we all know that doesn't work 100% of the time. So anytime that we can help a person have some better idea of how to play those shots that they very rarely play, if you think about it, and around the golf, it's a minority shot. Okay, anytime we can help them understand how to do that minority shot that they have, I think it's beneficial to their game altogether.
Yeah, and it's like karma. If you're somebody that doesn't practice those types of shots, you can almost be assured if you're playing on a course somewhere that has a lot of bunkers, you're gonna find yourself. It's like a magnet. It just your ball seems to go right there to that bunker. And we've all been there. I had that here a month or so ago when I went to Pinehurst and played on some of the courses there. And I'm guilty myself. I don't always practice the bunker shots as much, and Lord only knows I found myself in a few. But I drew on my experience and my memory, and I was able to get out okay. But again, these are things. It's like any shot, you've got to practice it. But particularly shots like this, even though you may only get into bunker once or twice around if you're lucky, sometimes not even all, depending on the course. But it's good to know that you have confidence getting it in and out. So real quick, just a very brief recap, if you will, just for as we get ready to close off. So you want to find a good sand wedge, and if you're not sure which one is good for you, talk to your local professional. Go into your pro shop, go into and talk with your pro and just say, look, I need to get a good sand wedge, and help them get you one, have it custom fit, make sure it's got plenty of bounce on it, make sure it's the right degrees for you. When you're setting up, make sure that you're lining your feet. This is, again, for a standard bunker shot. Obviously, some of the other ones, you might make some adjustments. But for a standard bunker shot, when conditions are relatively perfect, you want to line your feet up a little bit left of the target. You want to lay your club slightly open. Again, you want to turn the club first, then re-grip it. You don't want to lean the shaft back, as Clint pointed out, to the right. So you want to turn it slightly to the right so that the grooves are now pointing towards your left foot, and the club face is actually, as it's laying open, is actually pointing slightly to the right of your target. You know it's open correctly. You want to sling the club along your line of your feet, and you want to hit anywhere from 1 to 2 inches behind the ball, again, depending on the circumstances. You're taking the sand with it. You're not hitting the ball. You're hitting the sand on a greenside bunker shot. Obviously, the opposite for a fairway bunker. And most importantly, you want to follow through to a finish just like any other shot. So I think if you follow those tips and you get in there in those bunkers and practice, the next time you find yourself in one out in the golf course, you're going to find that you're going to be able to get out with success. And as you practice and become a little bit more proficient with those shots, then you're going to get into a situation where you're going to be able to control them a little bit more and find that you might get closer to the hole. As opposed to just getting to the fat part of the green, you may be able to be a little bit more aggressive and get closer to the hole. So I think if we do those, Clint, I think if they follow those instructions, I think they're going to have success getting in and out of the bunker. What do you think?
Oh, without a doubt, you've hit on it perfectly. And I'll add this: there's 2 words that you have to deal with in bunker shots. One is fear. The other one's your friend. Mm-hmm. We don't want to fear the sand because the sand's our friend. We're going to use that sand to get it out of that hole you're in, because, if you really want to make that shot hard, they just dug a hole and left nothing in it. So utilize the sand. It's your friend. It's put in there to help you get it out of that hole. You don't fear the sand. You use it as your friend to be successful with the shot you have. And we'll leave it with that. I mean, you've hit on everything else quite well, but I always have looked to try to convince the person, hey, that sand in there is your friend. If you really want to get into a real difficult bunker, a much more difficult bunker or hole that somebody's dug is one that's got long grass in it. That's a hard shot. But if you view that sand as your friend, then you're going to be successful. Don't fear it. Use it as a friend. You'll be good.
And we'll leave the grass bunker for another discussion another day.
Another day.
Clint,
another day.
Yeah, another day. Another day, another topic on Coach's Corner. Well, Clint, I want to thank you as always for coming on and having a great discussion. I always appreciate it. And just again, let the folks know if they want to reach out. The best way that they can do that. And if there's anything that you want to quickly plug, anything going on that you want to let them know about, so by all means, go ahead.
Oh, there's always a lot going on, Ted. I always appreciate it. We have fun, and hope we've helped some of the listeners with what they're doing over the years. But they can drop me an email at clintgoff001@yahoo.com. Go to the Third Shot Facebook page. We're always on there. I'm a big believer in the theory of make sure you're good at your third shots, and that's what we like to be able to do. And just look forward to the next, maybe another month from now, we'll do it again, and look forward to it.
All right. Clint, happy 4th. Have a great holiday weekend. Be safe, my friend.
Too.
And I look forward to seeing you here on the next Coach's Corner. Have a great one.
All right. You're welcome. See you, Ted. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. That was Clint Wright joining me on the Coach's Corner panel. And before I bring out my special guest, we'll take a quick break and a message from Golf Tips Magazine.
The following ad is sponsored by Golf Tips Magazine.
Are you tired of being short off the tee? And what about those 3 putts? Forget about it. It's time you got serious about your game. Golf Tips, the most in-depth magazine in the industry. For over 30 years, Golf Tips has delivered expert content such as the latest golf instruction from America's top pros, simple-to-follow practice and game improvement drills, fitness and mental game tips, equipment, training aids, accessory and apparel reviews, golf destinations and travel tips for every budget, and so much more. Don't miss a single issue. Go to golftipsmag.com and subscribe today.
All right, don't forget to go to golftipsmag.com and subscribe. You can get both the print and or digital version, or both, depending on what your preference is. But go to golftipsmag.com, check out the website. A lot of great tips on there, a lot of great interesting articles. And, of course, you can subscribe right from the website if you choose and get either the print or digital editions, whichever you prefer, or you can get both. It makes a great gift as well. With the 4th of July coming up and maybe some birthdays coming up as well, it makes a great gift for that golfer in your family. So on that note, I want to bring on, speaking of golf, we've got a great discussion coming up with a gentleman by the name of Drew Koehler. He's the co-founder and head of business development at Blue Tees Golf. They're a rapidly growing company that produces golf rangefinders and other accessories. He is responsible for commercial operations, which includes go-to-market strategies, customer success, and sales force design. In addition, he is accountable for the hiring of executive leadership roles such as Chief Marketing Officer, Chief Strategy Officer, as well as peripheral positions. He has been instrumental in creating an action plan that outlines how Blue Tee Golf has targets its customers and helps to grow the company. And with his assistance, Blue Tees Golf is the second largest rangefinder brand at green, grass, and retail. So please welcome my very special guest this evening on Golf Talk Live, Drew Koehler. Good evening, Drew, and welcome to Golf Talk Live.
Ted,
that was
thank you for the overly flattering introduction, my man. I appreciate it. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing very well. I actually had to take an extra deep breath before I did that. There was so many accolades there that I had to build out. So, but welcome, my friend, and I appreciate you taking time. And I know as we're getting ready to roll into a long weekend, everybody's got plans and busy lives. So I really appreciate you taking time and spending some time with me tonight, and of course my audience. So thank you for that.
Oh, my pleasure. I truly appreciate you having me. I'm looking forward to having a discussion this evening.
Well, that's good. So, all right. So every idea, I guess, starts with a problem, and yours was really simple. And I'm talking about Blue Tees. You guys looked at. There's obviously a lot of competition out there, and certainly you wanted to find a way to really attack this market, because there's a lot of premium quality golf products that are out there but are very expensive. And especially in recent years where golf has suddenly gotten a shot in the arm, no pun intended, we're getting a lot of new people coming to the game. And one of the issues or concerns is that, it's traditionally been a very expensive game or sport to be involved with. And you guys wanted to provide good quality products but a more affordable price. So what was sort of the thought process behind that? I know you've come in from other business experiences, Nat, so you bring a lot of experience into this brand. But what was really, what was sort of the overall concept when you came in and you started looking at what was out there in the market?
Yeah.
What was your first thoughts, and how did you guys decide, okay, this is what we want to do, as opposed to just sort of throwing something out in the market?
Yeah, no, it's an awesome question. I was living in San Francisco at the time with one of my childhood best friends. He was doing venture debt and banking, and his background was in the finance world, and my background was in go-to-market consulting and helping organizations grow revenue. And we were in our corporate jobs, and we had a little bit of discretionary spending, and so we picked up golf, and we loved it. And we got good enough at that point in time to, in our opinion, warrant a distance measuring device. We thought, hey, a distance measuring device would be great, could shave a few strokes off of our game, and this is back in 2018. And the rangefinder market from then to now has severely changed. But in 2018, when we were looking at the market, we saw the super, super high-end $400, $500 models out there, exceptional quality, performance beyond, candidly what we needed, right? It wasn't going to fix my duck hook or my slice or prevent me from knocking the ball off the tee, right? And so we're like, not for us right now. And so we then looked at the lower end, and we bought one. We each bought one off of Amazon, $99. I think maybe one was $110, and they broke immediately. And so we saw a gap, at least in 2018, in the market to say, wow, there's something here. And then we did a bunch of data analysis, and I don't want to bore you with the details, but we essentially realized, and we might have been blissfully ignorant at the time, but there could be a market here. And so we called a third friend who we grew up with, who was an industrial designer by trade, and I'll get to kind of the point here in a second. I know it's a bit long-winded, but we said, there's something here. We can build a really high-quality rangefinder. We can make sure it's a great value to price ratio, right? Not inexpensive by any means, because you get what you pay for, but not overly expensive. We could find a nice middle ground here. But let's do something that we hadn't seen other technology companies do at the time. And let's differentiate, not on a feature base, because rangefinders, laser rangefinders are pretty simple, right? They're measuring a distance. But let's differentiate on style, and let's create a brand behind it. And so, long-winded way of saying, it was through playing, and we saw an opportunity, and we took a chance, and it's one of the best chances I think we've taken today.
I want a fantastic response, by the way. I want to go back to, because I found this really, really interesting, reading through some of the notes as I prepared for this evening. And what was really interesting, just to go back what you talked about, here you guys got together, you fell in love with the game and wanted to explore things a little bit further. So you guys went out and bought some rangefinders and offline. And what I found was really, in a few short weeks, it broke. Basically, the eyepiece popped off, and as you guys put it, you gave it a mulligan. You gave it a mulligan and said, okay, I'm going to buy a different rangefinder. And I really like this one. It was rinse and repeat, same story. It broke pretty quickly. So, you guys, here's what I think the point that I want to get to, and I think this is so important because this is really what you guys have done so well. It's not just a matter of creating a product and it looks great and it performs well. You got and understood that there's a lot of different levels of golfers out there. You've got people that have been playing for years, very high caliber golfers. Certainly they want to play the best, and they want to do the best. They want to go to the best courses, what have you. They've earned it through the play of their game. Then you've got folks that are just starting out, and then you've got others that are sort of falling somewhere between. And so for somebody that's just come into the game, or somebody that's maybe played for a short period of time, is not wanting at that point to certainly make a substantial investment. But at the same time, they want to be able to have some of the perks, if you will, of some of the equipment that's available out there, some of the technology that's available, but they want to not have to break the bank or make a huge investment, because who knows where their golf game is going to go. Maybe down the road they might look at doing something like that. So you guys, as you said, you found a niche in the market for especially some of the younger guys and gals coming into this game and said, look, there's a market here, there's a big void in this market. Nothing wrong with the guys up here or the guys down here, but there's a big gap here, and there's a lot of people that are in that gap. Am I reading it right?
100%. 100%. And, it's to us, too, I grew up playing different sports. I didn't grow up playing golf. I picked up golf in college and after college. So call me late to the game or early to the game, depending on, who we're talking to. But for us too, it was not just new golfers, but folks like my father, right, who had played golf for a long time, but, they're supporting a family and, go talk to mom. Yeah. Hey, honey, I just bought a $500 rangefinder. I don't think that conversation would have gone over too well, right? It's like, come on, you're already playing golf, spending 4.5, 5 hours out of the house, right? So a lot of different use cases, but I think the core theme that you're talking about was there wasn't a ton of optionality out there, and there's a lot of different levels of play and a desire for different types of products. And so we did our best and continue to try to do our best in making sure that we can provide golfers high quality, awesome ROI products at a good and fair value. And I think up to this point, I'm really proud of our team and the ability for them to execute in what we've done so far, being a relatively new company.
Yeah, and really in golf, I've been around the golf business for a long, long time, so I'm, I guess you would refer to me as old school in some ways, but I recognize the diversity that's coming into the game right now, and I embrace it 100% because I'll give you an example. I've gone for a number of years. I've gone to the PGA Merchandising Show, and I've seen the same suspects there every season, and they're rolling out the same products essentially, and just rebranding it somehow. And but now I'm seeing a newer generation coming up and saying, "Hey, we want to be part of this." But we want to bring our own toys. We want to bring our own style, and we want to, we see it in the clothing, we see it in the whole approach to it, and there's room for both. That's the thing, is there's room for what people might classify the traditional golfer that wants the, X, Y, and Z, and then we've got somebody else that comes in and says, hey, we want to come in with a different approach to this, and this is essentially what you guys have done. And you've come out with a lot of great products. Certainly other products that certainly are similar to what you've got, but you've found, again, that niche. So I want to talk to, with respect to the rangefinders here. Obviously the features are similar or the same to what you might find in other rangefinders, but the styling is different. It doesn't look like your typical rangefinder. Tell us a little bit what the thought behind this and the approach that you guys pursued.
Yeah, so couple of us that started the company, we were childhood best friends. We grew up together, and we grew up in Southern California. So really, really fortunate for us to grow up by the beach. And so really, as we thought about how do we want to disrupt the look and the feel, we kind of equated it to, and still do, kind of what Travis Matthew, right, did with apparel. Fun prints, ocean vibe, tropical vibe. And we thought, well, what can we do a little bit differently? And so one of my best friends and our chief creative officer, he's an industrial designer by trade. He'll be the first to tell you that he's very inspired by companies like Apple and like GoPro. So really high quality, minimal looking designs. And candidly speaking, he's the brains behind the operation. And what comes out of his brain is just incredible, right? But as we thought about how did we want to change, how did we want to flex, it was that high quality, very modern, elegant looking design. And that's all from our chief creative officer, Brandon.
Yeah, and again, you want to, obviously you have to differentiate yourself from your competition. There's going to be certain similarities, or certain technology that's going to be embedded within, a variety of products like cars. I mean, every car has an engine, every car has brakes, and so on and so forth. But you have to find a way of tapping into the market you want to go after. And even though this particular product that you offer, not just the rangefinder, but the others we'll talk about in a minute, really is for everybody. But at the same time, you're recognizing that there's a new crop of younger golfers coming in, so you want to make it appealing to them as well as their traditional golfers. And you guys have certainly done that with the design, right?
Well, we appreciate that, and it's how do you toe the line, right? And how do you make something look? How do you appeal to the younger demo who's wearing the really loud prints, but then also how do you appeal to more of the traditional demo, right, that doesn't want something that's super overstated and loud, yet looking good and style is important, right? And so it's towing the line, I believe, to try to find that happy medium. And I mean, what we've put out thus far, I think, really does lend itself to making sure that we don't exclude people, right, because it is too loud or it is too modern, yet still focusing on that modern look and feel of the product suite.
Now you have, we'll stick with the rangefinder for a second more. You've got a Series 2 and a Series 3 rangefinder. Tell us about that. What's the difference? Is it just a generational thing as far as, obviously Series 2 came out first and maybe it's a little bit cheaper than the other. Give us a breakdown. What's the difference between Series 2 and Series 3?
Yeah, so really the difference between the Series 2 and the Series 3 are going to be the feature set. And so Series 2 was our flagship product when we first came out as a company. We have our Series 2 and our Series 2 Pro. They both are incredibly accurate. They both have, rangefinders, like everything has an 800-yard range for a 900-yard range. Like nobody needs to hit the ball that far, right? But so they have a ridiculous range. They're very, very accurate. But one of the main differences between our Series 2 models, because we have two of them, we have our Series 2 Pro and our regular Series 2, one of them has slope always on, and the other does not. So as we think about the high school golfer that wants to buy a rangefinder that doesn't want to go spend $400, the Series 2 is a great product for said individual because it is tournament legal. For the everyday golfer who wants the competitive advantage against their buddy right on the par 3 and to have the slope measure, that's where the Series 2 Pro comes in. As we thought about going up market and building a rangefinder that had a few more features, a few more bells and whistles, some of the things that were not included in our Series 2 lineup were stuff like a built-in magnet. So we have a built-in magnet in our Series 3 Max, so for easy access on the cart or picking it up with your club. Another feature of the Series 3 Max that our Series 2 line did not have was a built-in slope switch. So rather than having to make the decision of, do I want a rangefinder with slope on all the time or without slope at all, we put the slope switch in so that the golfer can choose based on what they need. And then we're really proud and excited about a technology that we introduced in our Series 3 line. It's called an auto ambient display. Even though I work at a golf company, I don't get to golf that much. And oftentimes when I do, it's after a long day in the office, and it's usually, playing as the sun is setting. And it's really hard to lock onto a target when it's a bit darker in the foreground. And so our auto ambient technology is, it has a sensor on it that essentially says, wow, it's really bright out or it's kind of dark. And if it's really bright, the text on the display is going to read black so that you can easily identify and lock onto your target. Contrary, when it's dark outside, the text will automatically invert to red so that you can get that contrast and more easily find your target and read the distances and what the display says. So those are, I would say, three of the key differences between our Series 2 line and our Series 3 Max.
Very good. Now, you also have some other accessories that go with your rangefinder. You have a rangefinder magnetic strap. Tell us about that. What's the purpose of that? And just give us an idea.
Yeah, so, thinking about easy access, what do we want as a golfer? Through customer feedback, we realized with our Series 2 line, our customers were asking for a magnet, right? We wanted to give them a Bluetooth designed and Bluetooth quality magnet for that, so we built a magnetic strap. And for those listening, the magnetic strap looks eerily similar to an Apple Watch. Goes around the rangefinder, easy access to, again, that Apple influence, right? But easy access to the cart, easy access to the club. And then as we think about products that we've built since then, we've also added this pretty nifty little product called our Mag Hub. and it's this device that clips to the golf bag for those of us that like to walk. And because we have the magnet on the rangefinder, the Series 3 Max, because we have the magnetic strap, right, for the Series 2, you can just clip it to this mag hub on the side of your bag, and rather than having to put it in and out of the case, you've got the mag hub for easy access while you're walking.
Right, and the magnet's strong enough that it's going to keep it in place. You don't have to worry about it dropping off and so forth. Again, that's a great feature, not having to go into a case all the time and pulling it out and so forth. You've got a safe place to to connect it to your golf bag. You also guys have gone a little further. I want to move away from the rangefinders. You know, again, this day and age in golf, it's about having fun. It's not always so serious. Mm-hmm. And I'm taking a cue from my younger generation. I'm obviously a little bit older than you are. But you guys like to have some fun. And who doesn't like to maybe listen to a few tunes while you're out in the golf course or even on the driving range? You guys have come up with a golf speaker. We've certainly seen others on the market, but this is something that you guys tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, so I do enjoy listening to music on the right kind of golf course or in the right setting, right? I think there's a time and the place for it, and when there is the time and the place, we wanted to have an awesome speaker. And the speaker market, it's saturated, right? You've got some incredible brands out there that build awesome speakers. But what we realized is the speakers that we were bringing to the golf course, and I speak for myself and my group of friends, not everybody, obviously, but they were just generic speakers, and they weren't easily accessible on the cart, or they didn't have features that we were looking for, and we were constantly putting them in our drink holders. And when you put a speaker in the drink holder, right, you limit space for your drinks or your phone, or you're like me, I got a couple of extra golf balls in the cart, right? Man, this is really inconvenient. And so we set out to design a speaker above everything else. And so it's an awesome sounding speaker that has also a built-in magnet. And so it's easily accessible. You can clip it onto the golf cart, and that thing is not coming off. In the R&D phases, I can't tell you how many different magnet strengths, and we landed on one that's not moving. The testing phase was very, very fun, but it gave a lot of us whiplash when we were testing it, because we were going into things with real crash car dummies. But the speaker itself, it's great. It's got a 360-degree sound, so it's got multiple speakers, and it's got multiple subwoofers in there, so that's awesome. It's got the built-in magnet. It's completely waterproof. If you end up on some sort of Instagram golf meme account because your golf cart goes into a lake, it somehow, I'm not sure how it could go in there, but your speaker's still going to work. Oftentimes, right, we're low on power on our phones, and so it's got a built-in power bank. So if you bring your iPhone, bring your Android charging cable out there with you, you can plug it into your speaker and charge your phone. But yeah, it's a great speaker. And then for any PGA professionals listening, or any folks that work at a golf course or do member guests, we also have an awesome customs program with our speaker too. So corporations, golf courses, we've built a program where you can customize it and put your logo on there. Awesome little gift. And so we're doing some fun stuff with the speaker and trying to become more of that golf technology company versus just a golf rangefinder company.
Yeah, and I think it's important to, obviously with any company, you want to offer a variety of products. You want to certainly stick to a market that you know and are comfortable with, and you don't want to get too far afield. But this, again, walks in line with where the market is going generally into that, again, not to say that there isn't times to be serious on the golf course, but at the same time, as we're seeing more and more coming to the game, they're really wanting to make it more. They're not looking to play on the PGA or the LPGA tour. They just want to go out with their friends and have a good time. And whether it's their guy friends, girlfriends, husband, wife, whatever the case is, or a group of you want to going out there, you want to have a good time and you want to make it fun. And again, we're not saying to crank up the tunes and disturb everybody, but there is a time and a place, and you can make it fun. And the nice thing about it is, even when you're getting ready out on the practice tee, you can have a little bit of music, and again, under the right circumstances. And the fact that you can mount this thing on your golf cart, or even whether you're pushing a pull cart, you can mount it on the metal there and take it with you, and it's not coming off. So that's good. And, the fact that you guys have put a lot of thought into this is important, because we see a lot of stuff, as you said, you've tested some other things on the market. They come out there, and it looks, at first glance, looks pretty good. And I just want to tell you, just on a side note, I have one of your rangefinders. I was sent one a while back, and I happen to have the navy blue one of that, and it's a great product. Let me just say that. I don't have the speaker yet, hint. I don't have a speaker, hint, hint. But I'm sure we can arrange that.
We got you.
But black, by the way. But anyways, but all kidding aside. But it's very affordable price, because, and again, at the same time, it's quality made, but it's affordable so that it's more accessible. And golf is becoming a game really that's being driven by the market. Before it was driven by the industry, where it's, okay, we're opening our doors, you come to us. Now consumers are saying, no, you come to us. Here's what we want. We want something, we want access to the game, but we also want access at an affordable price. And that's something that you guys, being in business before, outside of golf, when you got introduced to the game through your own, efforts, came to realize that, hey, we enjoy this game, we love this game, but we think we can make something that's going to be offered to a demographic or an area of golfers, and you're filling that void very nicely, and you're doing it in a stylish and very creative, inventive way. So kudos to you and all the rest of the folks at Blue Tees for doing that. So without giving any trade secrets or anything, is there anything next? What's new that may be coming out that you guys are working on? Can you share anything, or is that for next time?
Well, I can say this. We're listening to our customers, and we've got an incredible customer base that we're very, very thankful to and for, and they've given us some awesome ideas. And so as we think about the future of Blue Tees, I think number one is, we want to make sure that our customers have options, and we want to continue to build incredibly high quality, really great value products that look good. And so, I said this earlier, but moving away from just a rangefinder company to more of an inclusive golf technology and lifestyle company. And so that is the future of Blue Tees and where we're headed. And so we will have some new products that do come out at the end of this year, as well as the start of next year. So we'll be hopefully unveiling a few things at the PGA show. But again, kind of sticking to our laurels of knowing who our customer is, knowing that they want optionality, knowing that they want to have a frictionless purchase process, right, and be able to find our products wherever they are, meet our customer where they are, and make sure that we fulfill their needs. That's kind of a core tenet of Blue Tees and something that we're going to continue to do. But to your question, I don't want to give away specifics yet, but we got some awesome stuff coming up that we're really excited about, and we believe through customer feedback, it's going to resonate well with the market.
Well, I look forward to having you back on a future show where we can talk in a little bit more detail on that. But I want to just emphasize on a couple things. I've looked on of course Blue Tees website and that, and what I really like is you have a lot of different options, not just individually with the rangefinder and so forth that we've talked about tonight, but you've packaged it in such a way that they have options. So if they just want to get the rangefinder, they can get that. You've also got the rangefinder, the player, which of course is what you call the speaker, which is very appropriately named. And then you've also got a magnetic towel. So you've got a package, a bundle that you can do there that's affordable. And then if they want to step it up, you've got a magnetic hub that you can throw in, a divot tool. And so there's a lot of different package options that they can get if they want to, get the whole process. Or if they just want to, get one thing at a time as it's appropriate for them, as their needs change, then they can always upgrade and get other things. But you guys have really put some thought. And one thing I really like about something you just said is that you listen to your customers. A lot of companies, I think, are starting to do that, thankfully. but for a long time they really weren't. They were putting out what they thought the customer wanted, and sometimes it was a hit, but a lot of times it was a miss. And I think it's important, and I think as new business ventures start and owners like yourself and founders coming up in the ranks, you're looking at it from a different way. Is let's find out what the customer wants, and then let's build out from there. And then as new features are interested, and see what's the beauty of it is with so many others competing out there at other levels, they can look at what somebody else is doing and come back to you and say, hey, we would really like that. And then it gives you an option to say, okay, yeah, we can do that, but we're going to do it a little bit differently so it's more affordable for you, the customer.
Yeah, 100%. And it's, we love all of the competition, and we think it's awesome because it fuels innovation, right? It doesn't allow any of us to rest on our laurels, and the consumer ends up winning, right? Because new products come out, more affordably priced products come out. They're able to have more options out there in the market, and hopefully the competition amongst the brands pushes us to be better. And again, it's all about the customer and what they want, and listening to them and taking their ideas and putting those in their practice. And then also as an organization, it's coming up with, well, how can we push the boundaries of what hasn't currently been introduced into the market, and how can we introduce new ideas and new concepts that someone may have not thought of before. And so, we're nobody. We're not a company if we're not listening to our customers.
Well, and I like the fact, too, again, sort of having a little bit of an edgier look to what you do, obviously taps into your demographic a little bit more aggressively than some of your competitors do, because, they're going after, in some cases, different markets. Certainly they're selling to everybody, but you can tell just by looking at how they're approaching it. I want to ask you a question from a demographic standpoint, because we've noticed in the industry, as I'm sure you have, a substantial uptick in women coming to the game. Are you noticing with your products that certainly it's not quite an even keel yet, because there's obviously typically more men in the game than there are women, but that's rapidly changing. Are you noticing through your customer base that more and more women of whatever age are coming to you, looking at your products and saying, we like what it is that you're doing, and we're interested? Because technology has always kind of been, I hate to say this and put it in a box, but has been more of a guy thing. We like the gadgets, we like this. Are you finding more young ladies particularly are attracted to what it is you guys are putting out there?
Yeah, I would even take a step back and say, young ladies and young men are attracted to Bluetooth for the simple reason that we do prioritize aesthetic in what we do. Mm-hmm. As I take a look at my personal golf bag and my setup, right, I have a golf bag from Jones and I have a golf bag from Vessel, right? Those are two non-traditional golf companies, but I love the way that their products perform, and I love the way that their products look and feel. My head covers, right, are from different brands. I don't have the Titleist or the TaylorMade head cover, although I have their clubs. And so all to say, one of the overarching themes that we're seeing, regardless of gender, is people care about what their setup looks like. And it is easier to access, stylish. We can use that as the word here. It's easier to access stylish looks, right? I mean, TaylorMade tomorrow is going to launch a collaboration with a pretty cool clothing brand by the name of Kiss, and that probably wouldn't have happened 2 years ago. And so as we see this push for style, look, feel, and just golf in general, that was one of the main theses behind Blue Tees is, can we infuse that into a technology product and offer that to folks? And we're seeing, men and women for that matter, be attracted to that type of product. And as we think about making sure that we speak to everybody, you'll notice in our Series 3 Max lineup, we actually offer 3 colors. Yes. Right? So we have our flagship blue and white rangefinder. We have our matte black rangefinder, and then we have our rose gold and cream rangefinder. And again, the goal is making sure that we can give the customer what they want and let them express themselves through the look and their feel of their golf game. And we're sticking to our laurels there, and we're really happy with how that's played out thus far.
Yeah. Again, I think it's important, number one, to listen to your customers. I think you guys obviously have done that very, very well. And, you guys have grown to a substantial point at this point that now you're able to not necessarily, not saying that you were, but you're not a follower of industry trends, but you're actually a leader in industry trends because people are looking at you and saying, hey, we like what these guys are doing. They're not just coming out with another product here. They're coming out with a different option for the market that's different, offers certainly some similar features that somebody else might have, but they're doing it from a different perspective and appealing to a whole different demographic, while at the same time offering to the traditional golfers as well, which is not an easy task to accomplish in any business, let alone golf. So, again, kudos to you and the other staff at Blue Tees.
No, thank you. We really appreciate that. And hearing you say that, right, I mean, that sounds like an internal sales pitch, right? And so I'm glad.
And it's not. By the way, there's no paid endorsements here or anything.
No, I mean, it's awesome, though, to hear, right, somebody else reiterate what you as a company have set out to do. So it's kind of a fan moment for me here to hear that being said by someone not myself or a Blue Tees employee. It's awesome, and we're doing our best to stay the course and continue that moving forward.
Yeah, and I think it will serve you guys very well. Again, starting with one product and now branching out to other products and more things to come down the road. I'm excited for you, where you are now, and I'm excited to see where you're going to go as time moves forward. But Drew, I'm going to say to you in closing, first off, any final thoughts that you may have that you want to share, anything coming up, any specials that you want to make the listeners aware of. Let's do that, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, well, I actually have a question for you first, Ray, if that's okay.
Sure.
We listen to every demographic of golfer and what types of products are they looking for in the market, right? Someone like yourself who's been in golf, for quite some time, has seen brands come and go, have seen products come and go. What type of products are you looking for in the golf market, or what are some of the things that you wish you had access to that you might not right now?
Well, fortunately, being in the position I am, I get access to quite a few things. So, just because of what I do, and I own one of the magazines as well. So, I get people obviously providing me a lot of different things. But in all seriousness, for me, I look at golf a little bit differently than some of the other traditionalists. I've always believed in inclusion when it comes to the game. I think this is a game, my father, I grew kind of traditionally in the sense that, my father was the one that, ushered me out to the golf course, gratefully and thankfully. Not everybody's had that opportunity. And again, we've just been going through this pandemic, and a lot of people sort of went out involuntarily because there was nothing else to do. They were, watched everything on Netflix and whatnot, and they thought, okay, what am I going to do now? And they got introduced to the game. For me, what I want to see is a couple of things. I'll get to the technology in a second, but I want to see generally, I want to see more affordability. I want to see equipment be much more affordable for people. I want access to be much more affordable for people to get out there, because to me, virtually every other sport, whether it be tennis, basketball, baseball, whatnot, is accessible to the masses on a very cost-effective scale. Golf is not. So that's first and foremost what I want to see. To answer your more direct question as far as technology is, I want to see, companies like yourself come out. I want to see more and more people, whether they're in the golf industry or coming to the golf industry from whatever industry, to bring their ideas and saying, how can we make this not just more affordable, but how can we make it more fun? Golf has always had, and I'll be the first to admit it, it's kind of been a stuffy, shirt type of game. I want to see, as far as technology is concerned, and there's a lot of it out there. We see a lot of the watches out there and other technologies. We're seeing glasses coming out now with certain technology to be able to do similar to what the rangefinders. I think what I want to see with technology is I want to see something that allows the golfer to have an all-around great experience. So without having to buy 500 different products and load up their golf bag that it weighs 150 pounds without the clubs. Give you a good example is, and there is some of it out in the market right now, is, I think the speaker is a great thing. Some of them have the ability with GPS built in it. I think that's a great thing as well, giving the yardages. So there's that type of thing. We're seeing a lot of mini not rangefinders, but what's the word I'm looking for? I knew this was going to happen. This is what happens when you get old, Drew. This is what you have to look forward to. I want to see things like Flight Scope has them, and what's the word I'm looking for?
We're talking about like the mini TrackMans on the range, essentially, to be able to measure. Yep.
Mobile launch monitors. That's what the word I was looking for.
Mobile launch monitors.
So, there's more and more of them coming out in the market. We're seeing a lot of apps and things like that. But I think the underlying thing, I think whatever brings people joy and makes it fun, I think is great. And I think that even some of the simplest accessories, here's something great. You guys have got a magnetic towel.
Right?
Everybody's clipping their towel on the bag. How cool is that? That's the first I've ever seen that. So
easy access. We're not lighting the world on fire with that, but it's more convenient. It's easier to use. You can take it to the green and you can pop it on your cart, and it's accessible. It just makes it easier. You don't have to clip it on and off.
That's what I'm saying, is whatever makes it easier for the player, for the golfer, whatever makes it a more enjoyable experience. So I think, there's a lot of things. I think you guys are on the right track, I think, with what you've already got. And I'm sure as we'll discover as time goes on, there's other things I know you can't share now, but we'll hear other things that you guys have probably maybe somewhere along the lines of what I've already brought up. But I think overall what I'm looking for is what's going to make it a more pleasurable, fun experience for the golfer. So whatever technology you can incorporate to make it a more pleasurable experience for the end user and a more fun and creative, I think is what I'm looking for. So specifically, I know it may not answer directly what you're looking for, but that's generally what I'm looking for.
No, it's great to hear you say that. And again, I think what we have coming down the pike, really, you've kind of reconfirmed our gut feeling with some of the products that we're going to release to market with what you just shared. So how can we make things more accessible, make golf more fun, make it easier? And we don't need 101 different gizmos and gadgets in our bag, right? Is there something that we can use that satisfies multiple needs out there while we're on the golf course? So, it was awesome to hear you say that, and it's going to make me sleep better tonight knowing that you did say that. So thank you very much.
Well, you're quite welcome. But, again, it goes to a greater point, is that people are looking for ease of access to things. They're looking for ease of use, obviously. Mm-hmm. That's another thing, is you want whatever it is that you're using. And there's some great products on the market, but I'll be the first to admit there's some that are very cumbersome, very, difficult. When you're on the fly and you're out in the golf course, you can't be sitting there wasting time. You're slowing things up. So you've got to be able to get access to that, whether it be a mobile certain non-launch monitor, but you get things where not just the rangefinders, but you get other products, whether it be a watch or some of the speakers out there, as I said, will tell you the distances and so forth. You need to be able to access that information very quickly and easily and not have to sit and play around, or the Bluetooth is not, connecting and not connecting. So, whatever you can do to make it a more pleasurable experience for your customers, they're going to gravitate to. If they've got to sit and play around with it, or if it's difficult to do or understand or grasp, they're not going to buy it. And that's really what the companies are searching for. And as technology is rapidly changing, more and more companies like yourself are looking to tap into that technology, and at the same time are looking to make it eye-catching and appealing, so that when people look at the product, they're saying, okay, what the heck is that? Instead, what you want them to do is they want to say, hey, wow, that's really great. I like the look of it. It feels good. It's got a really appealing look, and it's functional. It does what I need it to do, what I want it to do, what I would like it to do, but it's cool at the same time. And that's what you want.
And it's easy to use and intuitive, right?
Yeah, and it's affordable. And it's easy on the pocketbook. And it's still built with enough quality that I can take it, and certainly I'm not going to be chucking it across the golf course, but if I happen to drop it, it's not falling apart. And I feel like I've gotten value for my money. So, again, I think you guys are on a great path, and I'm happy to give you that feedback. But Drew, let's tell them where they need to go and check out some of that information. What's the website?
Yeah, so if anybody's looking for some awesome golf rangefinders or speakers or accessories, we're going to be holding a massive 4th of July sale coming up. So great opportunity to buy some of the products at a greatly discounted price. BlueTeesGolf.com is where you can access that sale. We're also really fortunate to be in Dick's Sporting Goods, Golf Galaxy, PGA Tour Superstore, so any in Shield, so any of the big box retailers that you can think of, we're there. But BlueTeesGolf.com, we're going to be having some epic sales this coming 4th of July holiday. That's where I think people should go if they're interested to learn more.
And when does that actually take? Does it take place on the 4th, or is it taking on the weekend? When does it actually? When does it kick off?
So it'll be a weekend sale. So tune in very shortly here, and it could be running sales for throughout the weekend, and should be pretty awesome.
All right, go to BlueTeesGolf.com, find all the accessories that you need, and there's going to be a great sale this weekend. So keep tuned in and take a look at it and check it out. It's definitely worth your time. Drew, I want to thank you very much for joining me tonight on Golf Talk Live. It's been fun. I enjoyed hearing your perspective, and it's always a pleasure. I enjoy interviewing, entrepreneurs like yourself, and that really understand and listen to their customers, because I've been in sales for many years myself over my career, and that's always been the number one thing to me, is to listen to my customers, and I do the same with my audience. I know what it is they like to listen to, and that's what I try to bring to the air for them. So I'm glad you were able to join me, and I look forward to having you back on a future show when we can talk about some other products that Blue Tees has got. But in the meantime, for the listeners, go to BlueTeesGolf.com and check out some of the great savings you're going to find this weekend for the 4th of July. Thank you very much, Drew. As always, it's a pleasure, and I hope to have you back on the near future on the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Ted. You have a wonderful evening.
You too. Happy 4th.
Thanks. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, that was Drew Koehler, the co-founder and head of business development at Blue Tees Golf. Again, go to BlueTeesGolf.com. Check out some of the great products that they have there. They are really a great company, and they certainly are very forward-thinking. I think that you'll find that they're very affordable and certainly very stylish, and the equipment I can attest to, certainly to the rangefinder. I haven't tested the others yet, but they are. It's a great rangefinder, and I've really enjoyed using it. So definitely check them out. And again, once again, special thanks to my good friend Clint Wright for joining me earlier on Coach's Corner panel. Thank you always for doing a great job, and I appreciate it. And I hope you guys learned something on bunker shots. We try to do a little bit of teaching, if you will, here on air. I know it's not always easy when you can't see what's going on, but hopefully we'll give you a few nuggets to look at and to listen to. All right, next week I will be back on both shows. Tuesdays, Women of Golf, of course, from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern Time here on the blogtalkradio.com network. And then, of course, next Thursday I'll be back with another Coach's Corner panel and another great, insightful interview guest. And then the week after, I'm going to be away on holidays. It's the week of the 11th. So there will be no shows that week, and then I'll return, of course, the week after. So one more week of shows. I'll take a week break for some well-deserved holiday, and then I'll be back the week following. So thank you, everybody, for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I will see you next time right here on Golf Talk Live. Happy 4th, everybody, and God bless.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this week's broadcast of Golf Talk Live. We'd like to thank this week's Coach's Corner panel, and a special thank you to tonight's guest. Remember to join Ted every Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. Central on Golf Talk Live. And be sure to follow Ted on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you're interested in being a guest on Golf Talk Live, send Ted an email at ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. This has been a production of the iGolf Sports Network.